Here to cover all things crime, history, and politics, we are At the Desk. I'm your host, Tyler McDonald, and in today's episode, we will be discussing the events of THON weekend, the chilling case of John Wayne Gacy, the history of President's Day, competing against each other to see which mythological gods take the cake, and a very special guest will join our politics panelists. Now, come take a seat with us at the desk. Welcome back to ATD. This week, a very special guest joins our politics panelists, the Borough of State College's 11th mayor, Ezra Nanes. Let's head over to our politics panel with Yaya One.
Thanks, Tyler. As we all know, the 2024 presidential election is on the horizon, and it is a hot topic in the world of politics, to say the least. But today, with my co-hosts Ryan Lowy and Jackson Tortone, we're going to talk about the level of government that determines how our daily lives run and is too often overlooked, local government. Joining us today is State College's very own mayor, Ezra Nanes. Mayor Nanes, thank you so much for joining us here today. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day. And I'm just going to get right into it. So I know everybody appreciates a good origin story. So my first question to you is, what sparked your interest in running for State College mayor?
Thanks. Great question. I just want to say it's wonderful to be here with At the Desk and to talk with all of you. I ran for mayor because I love and care about this community. And my wife and I have been here almost 14 years, and as we got more involved in things, we saw that if we wanted to have our government do things that we wanted it to do, that we would need to get involved. So we started doing some electoral work and some campaigning. And then before this election cycle, I saw that the seat of mayor and borough council seats would be open, and these are essentially volunteer jobs, right? People from the community need to step up and serve as mayor and these other roles so that our community can function. And after we talked about it, and of course my wife and I decided together everything, because politics can be hard and elected office can be hard, so we have to be together in it. But we looked at, and I knew that my skill set and experience would be a good fit for mayor. And so I stepped up to run for the role. And I was successful. I won. So
as you can see, so I'm super happy.
And we are so appreciative. So,
hey, thanks.
In your 2 years of being mayor of State College, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced in the community?
Well, challenges in the community. I think there have been some issues, topics that cause very powerful emotional reactions. These can be events that are very local, like things having to do with lighting on sports tracks. Things like the use of eminent domain and where to put a parking garage, and even things as far away, but that has such local impact, like the conflict in Israel and Gaza right now. So as mayor, it's my job to run the council meetings. I preside over council. Now, I don't have a vote on council, but I run the meetings. And so as mayor, I make sure that we have respectful dialogue and that all voices are heard. And I think that's a really important job and function of the mayor, is to ensure that we have these conversations in a way that everybody can be heard in them.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So before I get into my question, I would just like to ask a bounce-off question real quick. How many members are on the council?
So there are 7 council members that are elected, and they rotate in different terms, right? So you never have 7 people all turning over at the same time, because that would cause a problem for the continuity of our local government, right? So, but in any given election cycle, you can have between 2 and 4. Sometimes this last election, there were 5 open seats, right? So we had 4 new members and 1 member who had been appointed to a seat that somebody else had vacated. So things can get complicated with the elections, but there are 7 members and they're all elected.
Gotcha. So my next question is, so I'm a first-year student here at Penn State. I've only come upon the State College Borough recently. What is your relationship with university officials? What is your jurisdiction over the university, and how does all that work?
Great question. Well, welcome to town. We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And I just want to say, for everybody who comes here to go to school, you are this community as much as anybody, as much as me. You matter. You have a vote. You have a voice. So first of all, that's my first message for you. So welcome.
Thank you
Glad
very
you're
much.
here.
Thank you for coming.
Hey, it's a pleasure. I love working with Penn State. Penn State and State College are two independent bodies, but we are parts of a whole, right? Our communities overlap and intersect. There's no separating them, right? But you have a governance structure at both entities. So I don't have any governance authority over Penn State. There is some zoning which governs land use that the borough can affect. But by and large, the university makes its own decisions. So as mayor, I've made it my goal and my intention to build a good, healthy, productive relationship with the administration of Penn State. I love working with President Ben DePuti and her administration. She has an incredible team. And that's really how I approach it. And also, I just want to say the relationship between the borough and Penn State is many faceted. It's not just me, talking to Neely. It's the administration. It's with faculty. It's with different departments like sustainability and diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
It's with different schools. So it's a very dynamic and complex relationship, and it's amazing.
That's wonderful. So you guys
Yeah.
are really working together.
Yes.
So jurisdiction-wise, when it comes to like law enforcement, rescue services,
Yeah.
do you guys, just like State College Police, have to assist university police on campus when needs be? Is there like some sort of responsibility or connection between the two?
Yeah, we're very lucky. We have an incredible police force in State College, State College Area Police Department. State College Police Department, and they cover the borough and College and Harris Townships. But for certain events, they will come on campus. Now, the university has its own police force that has jurisdiction over the campus. So the State College Police don't have jurisdiction on campus. But when there are certain events, and there have been events where there have been, let's say, a controversial speaker, or even, hey, things that we love, like a big football game, right? The State College Police will assist with traffic flow or crowd control, whatever it need be. So we work very closely with all the police forces in the community.
So it seems like there's a lot of overlap between what you do as State College Mayor and also like what the goings on in the university. So how much of your job actually involves Penn State and making sure that students are okay? Because at the end of the day, State College people see it as a college town because University Park is here and you have so many students just walking around doing their daily lives here. So how much of your job involves Penn State?
Great question. And you're right, we are a college town and we love it. I mean, that is one of the great things about State College. So as mayor, a lot of my function actually does relate to the university. There are many things outside the university, but my Friday night started at THON, where I issued my proclamation that we renamed the borough the City of THON, all right, if you want to talk about a relationship. And then I went from that to the Penn State chapter of the NAACP's gala. I made some remarks there. So that's just Friday night for you. And then this week we're here. It's all the time and it's great. So I do office hours with the UPUA. A lot of engagement, many different levels, as I was saying already. So I think, it's a big part of my job. It's not the entire job, but it's a big part. And I really love engaging with students and with the faculty and administration on campus.
Right,
That's so fulfilling.
That's very interesting, especially the office hours with UPUA. I had no clue, actually. I just got
Yeah.
an email from them like 2 days ago, I think.
Okay, come on out.
But I also want to ask, like, what are some misconceptions about your job? Because I think people, like I said earlier, they don't really understand how local government works to the granular level. So what
That's
are some
great.
things that you come across and you're like, that's not really what I do. Here's more like what the mayor does.
That's great. So I never blame anybody for not knowing exactly what I do.
Right.
I am the public representative of the borough, and it's my job to be here for the community. So if anybody has something to say about State College, an opinion, a feeling, a reaction, a need, I'm here to receive that. But it's not always my job to take action on that, right? Because there is a borough administration and there's also a council. So there are different parts of the borough that handle different things. But I'd say, the biggest misconception is that I make all the decisions in the borough. I don't. But I do listen, and I do try to reflect what matters to people in the community and also reflect what our borough council's policies and laws are.
And so what is like your favorite overall part of being the mayor?
Just honestly being in the community, getting to know people, getting to know different cultures, religions, ethnicities, national backgrounds, experiences, interests. It's just so fulfilling to get to know so many people and to be in community with them.
And could you describe the difference between living in your hometown of New York City compared to living here in a college town like State College, especially like a larger state like college town?
Yeah. New York City, where I grew up, it was a huge urban environment, so many people, but it was also very diverse, and I loved that. And coming to State College, we get to be here in the middle of beautiful pastoral Pennsylvania farm country and have the mountains, 10 or 15 minutes away, but we have an international population that comes from all over the state and the country and the world, and that is so enriching because we have this mix of cultures, and it's just, I just love that.
And how much do you like to utilize the nature around you here in like central Pennsylvania?
Oh, that's like, I'm out there all the time. I love, my family and I, we love to ski, we love to mountain bike, trail run, swim, there's lakes, you name it. I'm out there all the time. I actually competed in the triathlon, the Ironman that was on campus last year. Doing it again this year. If y'all are around, come on out, volunteer if you want. But no, I love,
That's really cool.
love to be active.
It sounds like a healthy lifestyle for sure.
I try to stay healthy, that just keeps me energized and feeling good. So thanks, I appreciate it.
That's a good example. If the mayor of State College can participate in the triathlon, maybe so can I.
Yes, you can.
So, obviously, I've come to notice that most of the population in this center region actually comes from the surrounding municipalities, the surrounding townships.
Yeah.
You mentioned a few of them, obviously Patton, Ferguson, neighboring townships. What's your relationship or governance with their councils, and how does their government work differently from the borough?
Absolutely. I know most, if not all, of the supervisors and boards that are elected in the townships around us. And that's important because, while we have lines drawn that delineate where our municipalities are, our populations, as you said, overlap and intersect and flow around. I spend time in Ferguson, College, Harris, Half Moon, Patton. So I know the people in those governments, and if there's an issue there, I want to be aware of it. So I try to maintain good communication. And to be honest, I'm lucky to be the mayor of State College, but there's no mayors in those municipalities, so there's only one mayor in this whole region. So sometimes it's nice just to be able to be there for anybody in that way.
Right, like a representative of the region. So
Yes,
when
yes.
you dive deeper into it, you guys all share a fire department, right? The Alpha
Yes,
Fire Co.
that's
So
right.
how does governance of the Alpha Fire Co. work?
That was the perfect segue, because when you talked about the municipalities, I was also going to mention the COG, which is called a Council of Governments. And so the borough and the 5 surrounding townships have formed a thing called a Council of Governments, and it's a regional government that sits above our own local governments. It doesn't make decisions about our laws, but it does handle things like the Alpha Fire Company, which is a part of the COG. So that's a regional function, and it can save money and make a more efficient operation if we can join together and do things. So parks as well, there's a regional park service, the SCLO Center Region Library, right? We have these functions that we share, which allows us to pool our resources and be more efficient.
So how often are you interacting with these people, with the governments of the different townships? Because I imagine between you have a job at AccuWeather and then being here,
Yeah.
it's hard to juggle being the only mayor of this entire region. So how
Right.
often are you interacting with them?
Right, and that's a great question. So I do work a full-time jobs because the job of mayor is essentially volunteer. I get $13,000 in a year, which is not nothing, but it's not enough to live on, right?
Right.
So it covers my incidental costs. But there are 7 council members, there's boards all around. There are people on authorities, boards, and commissions in all of the municipalities and in the COG, right? So there are hundreds of volunteers working in elected offices and appointed offices. And then there are professional staff, like our borough manager, who's hired, and those also number in the hundreds. So every municipality, including the borough, has a professional manager who administers that municipality, right? So there are so many people working together, and I'm playing the role of mayor, and I love this particular job, but there are many roles to be played, so it's really a team and community effort.
Okay.
So what about the school district? What's your relationship with State College area schools?
Again, another hugely important relationship. I have 2 wonderful middle schoolers in the Delta Middle School, part of the State College Area School District. I know everybody on the school board. I try to maintain communication and also just be a part of school SCASD events, because that's really important. Our schools are the most important places that we can support. That's where we develop our children and our community for the future. So
Absolutely.
very involved. And if there's any needs that our school has, or I'm always there for them, and we attend similar events, and we engage at different levels as well.
High school's beautiful, by the way. It's beautiful.
It is.
property.
Yeah.
And so,
Kudos.
more on the involvement with the community. Like,
Yeah.
what is like your plans for the future of being mayor, and like what are like your ambitions and your goals for the remainder of your term and beyond?
Wonderful. Well, my biggest ambition is that we create a welcoming and inclusive community where every single person feels valued and welcomed for who they are, respected, empowered, and that we can all enjoy the richness of our different lived experiences, right? Because we're all unique in our own ways. So
Absolutely.
if I can achieve that, then that'll be a big thing. Another passion of mine is bike and pedestrian infrastructure. I think as we grow, and we are growing, and we're going to continue to grow because Penn State University Park is growing, we're going to need to move people around efficiently. We need to make it safe and efficient for people to walk and bike places. It's healthy, takes cars off the road, it's quick, it's efficient, it's fun. So I think there's a lot of reasons why I want to see us continue to invest in that infrastructure.
Well, Mayor Names, I can tell you that from my personal experience, State College really is such a welcoming and inclusive environment. And so we are seeing the job that you're doing. And even if it's not visible all the time, I hope you know that we really do appreciate and understand everything that local government does for us. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today, as much as I would love to stay and chat. Amid the buzz of the election season, I hope you all take the time to think about how our local governments provide and maintain the little conveniences in our lives that we forget to think about. That's all the time we have for today on the politics panel. We'll save a seat for you next time at the desk. Back to you, Tyler.
See you guys.
Thanks, yeah. Local government is a crucial part of our everyday lives, and it's important to stay informed. Stay tuned for a package to discuss Four Diamonds and THON. We'll be right back at the desk. We are back at the desk. This weekend, Penn State hosted one of the biggest events of the school year, THON. But where did it all start? We will send it over to Katie to find out the history of THON.
Hey everyone, it is ATD's recap of THON, both from this year, but also, more importantly, taking a look back at the history of THON. So, the history of THON isn't something that many people talk about. You usually talk about what's going on in the year currently. But when you think about it, what is THON? So, for those who don't know, THON is a dance marathon that Penn State hosts on its main campus that helps raise money for our sole beneficiary, Four Diamonds, which is located at Penn State Health Children's Hospital, located in Hershey, PA, the sweetest place in the world. But what was the first THON like? What was that all about? So it started out in 1973. Former IFC President Bill Lear came up with the idea of a dance marathon that would be raising money for a worthwhile cause, also known as Four Diamonds. That year we had 78 dancers competing, and when I say competing, I mean competing. They were genuinely trying to see who could stand the longest. It wasn't a shared effort like it is today. It didn't turn into a shared effort until around 1979. That first THON was 30 hours long. It then moved up to 48 hours after that, and then came back down to 46 hours. It is now known as one of the largest student-run philanthropies, but when it started, that was no one's guess or goal for what THON would be. In the first year, THON only raised about $2,000. While that's still a great amount, compared to today's standard for what we're going to raise, with us raising almost 17 million this year, it doesn't seem like much. In 1992 was when we first saw that big raise in how much we could raise, with us reaching 1 million for the first time. Well, we think of it today as THON, and for all of us, it's THON, it always has been THON, it always will be THON. It actually wasn't called THON until 1978 when the THON name was given. The THON name is easy and short. It's something no one will forget. But something that a lot of people forget or don't even know in the first place is the location of THON. While it has always been on Penn State's main campus, it started out in the Hub Robinson Center, also known as the Hub. It started out in one of the ballrooms. It then switched over to the White Building a few years later, but then after that switched over to Rec Hall, which many people know we were in before we were in the BJC, which started in 2007. Looking back at what we were dealing with THON in that first year of 1973 compared to this year, 2024, we have made a lot of improvement and progress. FTK.
THON impacts so many lives around the world, and it's a great cause, not to mention entirely student-run. Stay tuned for our history panel as they debate which god will take the cake. We'll be right back at the desk. Welcome back. Now it's time for the history panel as they fight to see which mythological gods come out on top. Over to you, Brandon.
Thanks, Tyler. We here at the History Panel have, admittedly, talked about some heavy stuff over the last few weeks, but we here at the desk believe history, like anything, can indeed be fun. So today we're going to be talking about mythologies, God of War and Mortal Kombat style. The rules are simple. Each panelist has their own mythology and have chosen their own god from that mythology. It's mano debating each other to convince me, the great and omnipresent and ever knowledgeable god of all gods, Brandon, which one of their gods would win in a great battle. No help, no accomplices, just battle, baby. So, without further ado, let's meet tonight's fighters. Starting with Drew.
My name is Drew Comer, and I'm representing Huitzilopochtli, the sun god, war god, and the god of human sacrifice of Aztec myth.
Hello everyone, I'm Yeyawan, and I'm representing the Eye of Ra, she who bears 4,000 names, the warrior goddess of Egypt, Sekhmet.
I'm Audrey Keller, and I will be representing Greek mythology, specifically the god Poseidon, god of the ocean and seas and water.
Hello everyone, I am Jake Santora, and whether it's shapeshifting, seeing the future, or deceiving, my god is Odin, the Norse of all trades.
All right, sounds good. That was very enthusiastic. I really appreciate that. So the way it's going to work is we're going to have one versus one, and then a championship round. For the first semifinals, we're going to have 4 minutes to debate. For the championship, we're going to have 5 minutes to debate. And the winner of our great god battle will get to walk out of here with these puppies.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Raising the stakes.
So, let's get it kicked off. We guys got 4 minutes to debate. You guys can start any way you want. I'm going to have my debating glasses on to make sure I can judge you appropriately. Your time starts now. Let's go.
Alrighty. So Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun, war, and human sacrifice, is from Aztec myth, and he is known for wielding a flaming serpent as a weapon, a sentient weapon, if you will. He is empowered through human sacrifice, which was a daily occurrence in ancient Aztec culture. And his greatest achievement was the fact that he was able to cut out his own heart to rekindle the sun and just went about his day like it was a normal Tuesday.
Nice. Poseidon, on the other hand, he also had some struggles. This man has got daddy issues on lock, okay? He was swallowed by his father Kronos. He was saved by his little brother Zeus. And then they had to cut up their dad into little pieces and banish them to the hell of hell, Tartarus.
And while that's true, I would like to argue the fact that Poseidon wields, a trident, which is a godly weapon, a very powerful one at that.
Very powerful. Glad you said that.
Yes, but the fact that Huitzilopochtli wields a sentient weapon that can act on its own allows him to kind of free up his own way in combat. He doesn't have to worry about things that might come from the wayside because of the fact that he has a second mind working with him.
Well, you know who has millions of minds working for him? Poseidon. Hey, guess what? The oceans have maybe up to 20 million species, earthly species, not even considering mythological species, which we're dealing with right now. So, wow. And you know what? We're on Earth, correct? I believe yesterday, as of 9:34 p.m., Brandon said, let's assume we're on Earth.
Okay. Fair point.
Thank you. And so, if we're talking about Earth's oceans, which controls, Earth is 71% water, and in that there are so many different species that encompass that we don't know of. So if you're talking about things to take others to battle, you have one thing. I have millions.
Two. Weapon
Oh, sorry,
and the sun.
two.
The sun! The sun is one of the most massive celestial bodies, and he can move it on his own through human sacrifice. He rekindled the sun with his own heart, which I don't see Poseidon doing. I mean, he might make a tsunami, but what happens when he crashes the sun into the planet Earth, or just channels a fraction of its power?
Can I ask you how long that might take?
How long will it take? It takes a day. It takes one day.
A day? That sucks.
Oh my God.
Can I ask as the
Assuming we're
host, is the flame eternal?
The flame is, well,
There you go.
it is a lesser god.
Because you know what puts out fire?
Water, certainly.
This
But
is what I'm saying.
What
Water.
happens when a puddle of water
71%
gets dried
of our
up by the
fighting
sun?
field
It's gone. It's
is water.
evaporated.
And guess what? I believe that we are also fighting in human functioning forms, as Yaya had acknowledged at 9:47 p.m. last night.
I did.
Jeez. Wow.
And so guess what is in your body? Guys, water. Water.
This isn't
Poseidon
some Magneto
control-
stuff where he gets to like control
Poseidon
like the
can
iron in your
control-
blood. No way. No
Poseidon
way.
can definitely control all water. This is his shtick.
I feel like it doesn't
He
matter
can
how much
drown you
water
in
he can
seconds.
muster
So I
if
don't
it can
care
be
if
evaporated
the
within
sun
a
is
matter of
coming
a
in
second.
a day.
Let me ask our friend here a question. The flaming serpent that you speak of, the
Yes.
weapon that he wields,
Yes.
you say it's sentient.
Yes.
Does that mean that he can kind of just toss it and let it do its own thing? And
Yes,
while he
it is a
fights?
subvariant, like Quetzalcoatl, another god within Aztec legend. It's the same kind of entity where it's just a lesser version of what Quetzalcoatl is.
Okay.
Because he's an aspect of the wind, whereas Huitzilopochtli is an aspect of fire and wields the flaming version of what Quetzalcoatl is. So it is like a lesser god to a certain extent.
So it's kind of like a partner.
Essentially, yes.
Which we outruled, though.
But
Okay,
it's
well then
it's
the whole
1v1.
using all of the sea creatures as well is barred
But if
off
it's
as well.
sentient and you're saying it's a lesser god, you're bringing in an entirely new person into the thing.
Well, it's
then
his weapon.
I can bring in any nymph, any other god. He can have help from his brothers at that point.
And time.
Okay.
That was insane.
That was heated.
That was very heated.
Wow.
I respect both of you very
Drew, all
much. It was a
love.
very
All love. Nothing
wonderful
but love.
conversation to listen to. You both made some very, very good points. And I have to take glasses off for this, like I'm your grandfather.
Should we do a drum roll?
While I do appreciate both of your arguments, and I think that they were absolutely wonderful, I think you both made some great points, I do have to lean to Poseidon.
Ding, 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 ding,
It was a very
ding.
well
It was
fought
a great
battle.
debate, guys. It
However,
really was.
the water putting it out and the fact that it takes a day to move the sun, I mean, that's going to slow him down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
not
yeah.
what we need. We're in the thick of battle. We need some heat. So I'm going to pencil it in right here. Audrey moves on to the championship. Now, debate glasses are going right back on. And it's time for our next round. Jake, Yaya, time starts now. Take it away.
Jake, I'll let you start.
Okay, well, first of all, like I said, Odin is the Norse of all trades. This guy sacrificed himself for 9 days, 9 nights, hanging himself on a tree and ripping out his eye in the pursuit of knowledge. He wasn't given power and it wasn't bestowed upon him. He had to work for it. How many times are you seeing a god work for it? Zeus had this from the start. You'll see other gods all across different pantheons of mythology have it from the start. Not him. Not Odin.
Well, while your god was poking his eye out because he wanted
Let's hear
to
it.
learn what 2 + 2 is, my god was drinking the blood of her enemies and she didn't stop. And the reason she was able to be, actually, let me backtrack. Let me tell you about Sekhmet.
I'll hear it.
Let me tell you where she came from. She was created because the humans of Egypt were disrespecting Mads, which is the ancient Egyptian principle of order and justice and law. And what is every society, every civilization, every religion based on? The idea that justice will prevail. And Sekhmet, she is the sword of justice. She was created to uphold this principle that you can find throughout every civilization. And she is a beast with the head of a lioness. Her breath is described as being the hot winds of the desert. She was bringing plagues plagues to Egypt. And not only was she bringing plagues, she had the cure to all of those plagues as well. So she can make you sick and she can heal you just as fast.
You want to talk about beasts? My guy was commanding beasts. With the knowledge of the runes that he gained from hanging himself on that tree, he was commanding beasts from the start.
But what's he on the battlefield, though?
He actually won every battle he ever did, and his subjects actually claimed the fact that he would never lose a battle in his lifetime. Therefore, and he's immortal, by the way, so throughout all of his lifespan, he's never ever lost a battle, nor is he ever projected to lose a battle in the future.
Well, Sekhmet breathes fire against her enemies. The pharaohs of Egypt have taken her as the symbol of their protection. They ride into battle with her symbol on their horses to symbolize the unvanquishable heroism of the pharaoh. She's the protector of the pharaoh. She's the protector of kings. And kings can sit on their thrones all day and drink wine and get fat. Sekhmet, she is a well-oiled machine. She is a trained killer. She was only stopped because the priests of Ra, the king of gods, had to mix red ochre with beer mash, and thinking it was the blood of her enemies, she drank it. Imagine that. She sees the blood of her enemies, and her first instinct is to drink it. I mean, she is an insane weapon. She will not stop until her enemies are 6 feet in the ground, maybe even 10.
So she is drinking the blood of her enemies. My guy, he's doing it to his allies and his enemies. His own wife, he used her own magic against him, the magic of Rainier's. He cast her under an enchantment that she was not even able to use her own power against. He mastered her own power. The pursuit of knowledge that he had to do that must have been so immense that she wasn't able to conquer.
So your God doesn't have loyalty.
Are you referencing Freya? Is that who you're referencing as well?
I'm referencing Freya.
So your God doesn't have loyalty. What do you do with a God who will turn on even their own allies? What do you do with a God that will turn on even his own allies? Because I mean, he has no principles.
Well, you know, you could say that he's turning on his own allies, but it's only his wife. He's actually known for curing the sick, turning weapons against attackers, calming storms, and turning evil women harmless.
All right, guys. I think that just about wraps up this argument here. It was this one was really good. This one was very heated. Jake, I love the way that you came in with everything, especially in your intro. That was very, very entertaining. Drinking blood, very interesting. However, I think that the big point here is that Odin can't be trusted with anything. And Yaya, this is a 1v1 battle. And you said that he can't be trusted with anyone else. How can you trust him? It doesn't matter. It's a 1v1. And unfortunately, for that talking point alone, I do give the edge to Jake here. I'm sorry. It was very well fought.
I was wrong, but it's okay. Wonderful point.
It was a very good debate. It was a very good debate. So it looks like the left side of the table is absolutely mopping today. But we're going to see how that goes.
Shake my hand.
It's time for the final round, the championship. Mano y mano.
We love each other.
We love each other
either
way. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's all peace, love, and happiness, except on the plane of war. The battle starts now.
Would you like to start?
Go right ahead.
Okay, I will. Thank you for saying that.
I have no worries. Poseidon's gonna drown.
Say that again?
Poseidon's gonna drown.
Okay. So, okay, your God. Let's say he has an earthly body, correct?
Absolutely.
And one of your biggest arguments was the speed and the brutality of his victories on battlefields. That's really interesting that you brought up speed, because one of Poseidon's biggest things, he's called the Earth Shaker. Okay, he can create hurricanes, he can create earthquakes. I don't know if that's going to kill your God, but it's going to slow him down. And my God, this is the only time I will defend a man, but he is so insanely smart after having grown up with gods like Athena and Zeus and Hera and the entire clan that we have all heard so much about grown up, I assume. I was a Percy Jackson kid, so I'm a little biased.
Privy to it, sure.
Thank you. And so I think that he would be able to outplay Odin. Sorry. You see, that's how much that I respect your God. Not at all.
Damn.
So,
Fire.
It's good to hear at the History Panel, folks.
Take it from here.
Okay, well, it's funny you say that you could kill my God, and you know what? I'm gonna fall on my sword a
I
little
don't
bit.
think I did say that.
You did mention it a little bit.
I said I don't think I. Okay.
Anyway, my God is immortal. However, that's not to say he can't be killed by another God. However, you said that your God is a major pursuit of knowledge. However, mine is the most pursuit of knowledge, and I can prove that by the fact that he used craft and cunning to defeat his own son Thor multiple times. You might have seen him in a couple Marvel movies. But Thor actually is stronger than his own father. I'll admit it. As strong as Odin is, he isn't as strong as his own son. but he uses craft and cunning multiple times to defeat his own son because he is the master of deceit. And if you're God, you think he's going to be able to do that?
You see, that's so funny that you mentioned that, because
Okay.
my God did the exact same thing. Hey guys, remember what I was talking about before, daddy issues? He did do that. So basically, the Titans, which Kronos was, were so much more powerful than the gods. It took the band of them, but Poseidon did have a huge role in banding his father down to the table to be cut up to cast into Tartarus, which I'm sure would be no problem for him to do to you.
But let's keep in mind, this would be a giant battle. And what did my God ever never do? He never lost a battle. And he had the strength of the magic of veneers.
Yet.
But guess what? His own subject said that he would never lose a battle in his entire lifetime.
Guess what? His subjects
his lifetime,
were
by the
Nordic.
way, is his Oh, really?
We're Nordic. This is entirely, we're at a different playing
And yours
field.
are Greek.
Okay, I didn't say that mine
Ding,
were.
ding, 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 ding. Unfortunately, that is about all the time we have for this week. That was very needed and very interesting to listen to.
I got chills.
All right, guys, it's time.
I got chills.
What are your
I'm
thoughts,
sweating.
just really quickly, if we have time?
Lovely display
Lovely
of,
display.
of
Who would you
mental
guys take?
combat.
Give me a name. Who are you taking?
I
If I
have
had
to
to
go
come
with
down to it,
Odin.
I would take Poseidon, honestly.
All right, we got to
Poseidon
split scissors.
fire.
Means it comes down to me for these right here. These bad boys. These let you see into the future and all time.
Gotta have 'em.
My winner for today, because of the Titans, is Poseidon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is our winner. Here are these. Put these on very quickly. Give us a good look at the camera.
Wow.
Look at how wonderful. That is
Amazing.
amazing. So, folks, we have our winner and champion as the strongest god. The ruler of all has officially been crowned. And with that, we're going to end it here at the History Panel. Before we send you off, remember, every one of you is mythic in your own special way. And we have full faith that you could take Zeus or Poseidon or whatever his god's name was in a fight. We'll see you back next week. Back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Brandon. What a debate. Stay tuned for our crime panel as they discuss John Wayne Gacy. We will meet you back at the desk. Welcome back. It's time to send it over to the crime panel as they are set to discuss the infamous Chicago serial killer, John Wayne Gacy. Over to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Tyler. I'm Ryan Lowy, joined by Eva Hines, Sam Rashio, and Savannah Barr. Today we will be continuing with reviewing serial killers by diving into the brutal and gruesome topic of John Wayne Gacy, a construction company owner who also got involved in local politics, dressed as a clown at kids' parties, and was generally considered a stand-up man in the Chicago suburb of Norwood Park Township. That was until 8 years later, in December of 1978, where Gacy was arrested for the disappearance of Des Plaines teenager and former employee of his, Robert Priest. This led to the finding of over 25 bodies, buried under his home and the uncovering of at least 33 murders of young high school-aged children. Gacy was sentenced to death and executed at the Stateville Correctional Center in Crest Hill, Illinois on May 10th of 1994. So let's get into talking. We're going to continue on the path of talking about serial killers and reviewing them. Let's talk about his upbringing.
Yeah, so John Wayne Gacy had a terrible childhood, a really bad upbringing. So he was born on March 17th, 1942. He had two sisters, and his father was very abusive to him. He was an alcoholic, and he would continuously beat him, sometimes till he was unconscious. So they had a very strained, bad relationship. Also at that time, he was also sexually molested by a family friend of his, so just all around, very bad situation. His mother, on the other hand, tried to kind of protect him from all of the hate from his father and all of the bad things going on in his life, but at the end of the day, there was nothing really she could do. All of this kind of ended up him leaving home at the end of the day. And he was also growing up very ashamed of his homosexuality. He hid it, he was not proud of it, and that also led to a lot of self-loathing. He also had a heart condition, which caused him to not be able to play with the other kids. And he kind of gained a little bit of weight from it, so a lot of the neighborhood kids would bully him. And he really just didn't have a lot of friends. Like we see this trend, he was a very lonely kid.
You know, and adding on to that heart condition, his father didn't believe him. In fact, he accused him of making it up for attention. You know, Gacy was constantly blacking out and having seizures, and his dad was completely dismissive, saying he was making it all up for attention.
Right.
Yeah, something I want to add to that, there's a few things about that I want to add. One thing is his father came up with his name. He named him after John Wayne, the famous person, so he's named John Wayne Gacy, and I think that leads to, the father kind of wanted him to live up to this certain standard. I mean, he named him after a famous person, and he didn't kind of live up to that. He was afraid to tell his father about that he was molested and things like that. But something I found was interesting, I was watching an interview with him before he was executed, and he was saying that he doesn't hate his father. He actually thinks his father is a good man, despite all the things that he's done to him, which I think is really interesting because a lot of like serial killers, you see the resentment for their parents, but he doesn't hate his father. Also, another thing in that interview I wanted to bring up was he said he was bisexual at the end. So obviously we know he molested and he killed boys, but he said that he was attracted to women. He wanted to marry women, but he did all these crimes to males, which is really interesting.
Yeah, we even know he had 2 wives. He was married and divorced in his lifetime. So.
And I actually want to add on to that with his father. John Gacy goes on record saying the only time his father said he was proud of him is when he was in local politics. You know, something interesting is he was considered to be a very stand-up man, like you said in your intro, Ryan, in his community. So much to the point of where when he was convicted of rapes leading up to his murders, some town people believed him over his victims.
Yeah, and that's really sad. That goes into Norwood Park Township, which is a suburb. It actually borders the city of Chicago in Cook County, Illinois. It's one of 29 townships in Cook County. The population is 27,000. It's 3.67 square miles. We currently, right now, we're in the borough of State College. It's a square mile bigger, about the same population. So obviously, it's very dense. You get around in the community very easily. And that goes into the topic, again, of law enforcement. It's got its own police department. It's big enough. And when law enforcement followed Gacy, they said that Gacy was cordial, he was respectful, and almost law enforcement couldn't believe it after a while. And you know what's funny too is he originally grew up in Cook County, then he moved to Iowa. He committed a crime in Iowa, served jail time for it. The crime was similar but not as in-depth to what he obviously was prosecuted and killed for in Illinois. Moved back to Norwood Park Township. And obviously, as you said, he was involved in local politics. He had his own business, which employed high school students. And somehow, in some way, with law enforcement following him and all these suspicions and, you know, the community just knowing him very well, dressing as a clown, going to kids' parties, nobody had a suspicion of it. In fact, people believed him, you know, after countless times he turned it down.
And I just think it shows like how well liked he was because he was already a felon in this other state and still he lived this perfectly great life. He threw neighborhood parties. He was a clown, a kid's clown for parties. Like he lived such a good life and people really liked him and respected him. And I just think it goes to show how well liked he was.
And that leads into suspicions. Again, as we said, he said, and I'm not quoting this word for word because I don't have it written down, I apologize, but he said something along the lines to cops of, clowns can get away with murder. Now that is a little weird. Alongside this, usually clowns, you know, when they're around children, you know, when you're dressed as a clown, you have like a little funny look, you know, maybe you're a little scary. He had a very creepy smile painted on his face, and I mean very creepy.
Now, Ron, I want to add on to a law enforcement response. One of his victims, he ended up letting go as long as he said, you can't go to police. And he went to police anyway, but they dismissed it because Gacy came back and said that it was consensual and it was a private act, and they just dropped it.
Something I want to note is I'm relating John Wayne Gacy to Ted Bundy. If you guys know who that is, Ted Bundy was also a remarkable man. People did not believe him. He was very well liked. And when I was watching an interview with John Wayne Gacy, I was looking at him and I was thinking, he is laughing. He seems like a nice, you know, normal guy, but at the end of the day, he's evil. So did Ted Bundy. He thought he was a nice guy to the public. He was very well liked, but at the end of the day, they committed gruesome, gruesome crimes. And I want to take that because there are some strange similarities between Jeffrey Dahmer and John Wayne Gacy. So I just want to talk about that a little bit.
I was actually looking forward to hearing this.
Yeah.
The first thing notice is I'm going to talk about the little more kind of serious things, and then I'm going to go into some conspiracies. So they both had bad relationships with their fathers. Now, this doesn't contribute to them becoming serial killers in a way, but they were abused by their fathers as a child. They were saying that they were not good enough. They also killed boys. They molested boys, and they hid their bodies in their own homes to kind of, I don't know, stand on the ground of who they killed and be reminded of that. Now, some conspiracies. So, Jeffrey Dahmer was actually baptized on the same day that John Wayne Gacy was
Now, that's a
executed.
conspiracy theory? I thought that was confirmed.
It is. It's confirmed, but it's a conspiracy in the way that this relates, because it was on like a solar eclipse moon. So it kind of, I don't know. It's confirmed, but it's a conspiracy that has something to do with, and they've never actually met. So, I mean, and that on the Dahmer TV show, to kind of debunk that, they've never met in person, but John Wayne Gacy was a character on the Dahmer TV show.
Let's stay on that topic, too, because they had him dressed as a clown, John Wayne Gacy, obviously torturing and putting one of his victims in water. There was no evidence that he actually ever dressed as a clown while committing his murders. I don't know why he would do that, because the person, you know, he's killing the person, so the person's not going to remember that. But I guess in terms of a theme of an entertainment show that's already gotten a lot of things wrong in Jeffrey Dahmer's sense, it makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, people always say, like, oh, he was a killer clown, he was a killer clown, but he always says he wasn't a killer clown, he was just a clown that happened to kill. He was never dressing up as a clown during these crimes.
And I want to talk about his trial really quick. I think something interesting is he tried to claim insanity to be moved to a mental health facility instead of a prison, and he claimed split personality disorder, and he said one of the things that his personality disorder did was it made him hate boys and it made him hate gay people.
I think something with that is, so he claimed insanity because of the abuse from his father, and his forensic psychiatrist at the time was the one that argued that insanity, but in reality, I don't quite know if they don't know if that had much to do with exactly why he killed. I mean, he was, maybe he wasn't insanity as the legal terms, but he was insane. The things he did to these poor boys, like, we see a lot of killers kill their victims, but he, I mean, it was torturous, it was personal, he wanted to relive his fantasies. He took them into the basement of his home to torture them and make them beg for their life, because he had to beg for his life with his father.
And that's why the court ended up ruling that he wasn't insane enough to make him commit the crimes, because they were so premeditated and they were so thought out extensively.
Note on that, the trial was, I mean, he most certainly did not get given much of a chance. I mean, 33 people died. The trial lasted 5 weeks. The jury came up with a decision after 3 hours in their chambers.
Yeah, I mean, the crimes were just so unimaginable that you can't look at a person and they think that they could do this. It's one of the most unimaginable crimes I have ever looked at.
Yeah, I also kind of want to touch on that he did get the death penalty, and there's a lot of different opinions on that. For me personally, going on to the death penalty, I've always kind of thought that I feel like living out your life in prison is kind of almost a worse kind of punishment, kind of having to deal and face with what you've been given. But I also see the other side of, you know, some people, the crime is so insane and so unimaginable that they don't deserve to live the rest of their life out.
I actually saw something interesting, and this is obviously because we know generally when we go on the political scale, Democrats are against the death penalty, Republicans usually are for it. Something Democrats were saying is that the death penalty is expensive. In some cases, and actually probably most cases, it's more expensive than just letting a killer live out the rest of their life in solitary confinement. So I happen to think personally, in my opinion, obviously, and this isn't a general opinion that everyone needs to have or that everyone has to agree with, is that the death penalty was appropriate. Because what he did was terrible, and he felt no remorse, because his final words were, because you're giving your last words are, and please bleep this out, kiss my ass. So, yeah, obviously he didn't feel much remorse, and honestly, he doesn't deserve to live.
I want to add on to that, because I think part of the reason why people support the death penalty is that you get to watch kind of, I don't want to say, this is going to sound awful, but this is, it's the truth. Some people like to sit in there and watch the person be killed because
the media's in there
the media's in there. Sometimes
makes for good
the
television.
people's parents are in there. I mean, people want to see what happened to their child happen to someone else, whether you agree with that or not. His crimes are so awful, so anyone can have interpretations to that, what they want, but I think that's part of the reason that he was put up for the death penalty, and he did receive it at the end of the day.
You know, something else I think is interesting is there were more victims that were never identified that they suspect were from Gacy, but because he had the death penalty, he was never able to come forward and say, yes, he did it, or help with that in any way.
And I mean, we were talking about Dahmer. Dahmer didn't even hit 20 deaths. 33 confirmed. Now, that is a very big number.
And they
That is
were
a lot of
all,
people.
like, very personal. He didn't just kill them quickly. It took a lot. for
Very
him.
gruesome.
It's just like
Yeah.
the number is unimaginable.
Yeah.
33 people. I mean, it's crazy.
I know.
So with that being said, that's all the time we have for tonight. We'll see you next week as we will talk about and dig into the crimes of former U.S. gymnastics doctor Larry Nassar. Tyler?
Thanks, Ryan. We will be right back at the desk to celebrate President's Day and its history. We are back at the desk. We are going to end off today by heading over to Jackson to learn all about President's Day and some fun presidential history.
Thanks, Tyler. I'm Jackson Tortone, here to talk about what I guess you can call the commander-in-chief of all holidays. That's right. This week we celebrate President's Day, which is the day that we honor all 46 presidents and the 45 people who have held the office. Yes, you heard that right. Anyways, the holiday of President's Day has been celebrated ever since 1879, when the federal government made February 22nd, which is George Washington's birthday, a federal holiday. The holiday has since turned into being celebrated on the third Monday of February, which gives many teachers, government workers, and bankers a day off. Ironically, though, the president himself does not get a day off. I wonder why. As far as presidential history goes, there have been many fun and unique facts as well as observations about U.S. presidents that I would like to share. To start off, there's only been one president to be married in the White House during his time of presidency, that being 49-year-old Grover Cleveland, who married his 21-year-old bride, Frances Folsom, in the White House during his first term in 1886. Take that information as you please. There has been only one president to fight off a potential assassination with a cane, and that president was Andrew Jackson, who was already living with a bullet permanently lodged in his chest from a duel he participated in during his younger days in 1805. The president with the worst hairdo has to be James Buchanan, which would explain why he was the only president to remain a bachelor throughout his entire time in office. Not only that, but he was the only president to be elected from Pennsylvania. Not a good look. And to add on to the point of hairdo, the United States has never elected a president who was bald. So to Mr. Clean, Charlie Brown, and Uncle Fester, we love you, but you might want to call off your campaigns. You can get into the office at any height, however, as there has been an entire foot of variation amongst U.S. presidents, with James Madison standing at a modest 5'4", and Abraham Lincoln at a towering 6'4". There have also been 5 different political parties represented in the office, one of which sounds an awful lot like something that one of our bald friends would put on their head. But now it's time for me to give you the complete collection of our head honchos. This is a list of 45 different names that make up 235 years of sacrifice, leadership, patriotism, and you will hear them all in under a minute. Here we go. George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James K. Polk, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, James Garfield, Chester Arthur, Grover Cleveland, Benjamin Harrison, Grover Cleveland again, William McKinley, Theodore Roosevelt, William Howard Taft, Woodrow Wilson, Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Harry S. Truman, Dwight Eisenhower, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. Well, that's all we have. Who is your favorite president? Please comment below. We would love to hear your thoughts. Back to you, Tyler.
Thanks, Jackson. Sadly, that is all the time we have for today. In the meantime, stay updated with ATD on all of our socials and let us know what you want to see us cover next. I'm Tyler McDonald, and we will see you back next week at the desk.